Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. Today on the Observe Day podcast, we are honoring Pain Awareness Month, a time dedicated to reason, understanding, sharing experiences, and highlighting ways to support those living with pain. I'm joined by Dr. Robin Harwick, an educator, researcher, and author who has spent more than 25 years working in education, child welfare, and trauma recovery. Robin is the founder and director of the Peer Remote Democratic High School, a learning community built on equity, compassion, and student voice. Beyond her professional expertise, Robin brings a deeply personal perspective. She lives with chronic pain after surviving a near-fatal car crash. Her story is not only about resilience, but also about reimagining education and community as spaces of healing and power. Welcome to the podcast, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you for that really nice introduction. I appreciate that.
You tell me about the car crash.
Yeah, this is really interesting that you invited me into this conversation because this is something actually that a lot of people don't know about me. One of the things about those of us that live with chronic pain, this is a non-apparent disability, right? And so people make assumptions, and maybe other
Yeah,
people with disabilities even might make assumptions that we don't understand because we're not experiencing those kind of things. So the car
yeah.
crash happened back in 1999, and I was hit head on and spent several weeks in the hospital, followed by several months using a wheelchair, and then also um, went to finally a cane. And from there on, much physical therapy for about a couple years of physical therapy. And I have metal rods in my leg. My whole leg was shattered, and I still have all that metal in my leg today. So I had to reimagine my life. I was studying for a career that I was no longer able to pursue because of the injury to my leg. I was studying to be a research scientist that was going to be out in the field in the environment, hiking mountains, all
Yeah,
of those kind of things. And so, I say by fluke or by fate, that's how I got to education and use my research skills in a very different way now.
yeah. I know you touched on it generally, but what exactly you said research sciences like what was the exact what's the word? What was the exact term for the thing you were studying at the time, and what did you pivot to?
Yeah. So I was studying to be a groundwater hydrologist, and this was
Okay.
in rural New Mexico. And my plan was to make sure that I had a career that didn't ever have me at a desk. I wanted to be outside, in nature
Yeah.
all the time. And one of the first things the doctors said to me, and this was not good for them to say this at that time, they immediately told me that I would never walk on uneven surfaces again and that I would never hike again. And that was the day that I became conscious again after the crash. And so, in that moment, I was like, I just finished college. This was my whole plan. What are you saying to me? I will
Yeah.
say I proved them wrong. I have since hiked in 6 countries. So that physical therapy for those people that are experiencing something like this, it was really, really hard. It was extremely painful, but I was determined to keep doing it. And so I am able to hike. I'm much slower than I used to be. Um, but I loved research in general. And I started working with families during my physical recovery from the crash and really enjoyed supporting families and eventually went on to get my master's in early intervention and my doctorate in secondary special ed and transition.
Yeah. I'm curious at the point in time because the thing about this accident is that it's sudden, right? That's why it's an accident in the first place, right? And one time you just you're in a car, the next time you saw yourself in the hospital, legs shattered and plans shattered, dreams,
Mm.
many things other than the physical shattering of the bones. There other things that were shattered. There were all those things that you wanted to do. You wanted to be a hydrology, groundwater hydrologist. What did it feel like at a point in time? And how did you, what's the word, adapt to eventually pivot? I know, right now you tell us that you did, but I'm guessing it wasn't easy.
No, no, it wasn't easy. No. And, I did have you talked about the shattering, and, I did have a spiritual crisis in that moment as well, really shook my spiritual identity as well, because I had a lot of time to think, when you're using a wheelchair and you don't have mobility and you're used to being somebody that's really active, what are you left with? You're left with your
Yeah.
mind, right? And thinking about what happened and where I want my life. I was also a single mom of a 2-year-old at the time, so having to navigate not being in an accessible apartment with a 2-year-old that was mobile and moving all around, and I couldn't get my wheelchair always, where she was. So,
Yeah.
um
Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observe Day newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind the scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
My mother actually brought me, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, and I started studying Tibetan Buddhism during that time. And, in Buddhism, you find a lot of, um, philosophical understandings around the causes of suffering and how to manage through suffering and those kind of things. So, really, I think my love of reading helped me persevere through that time. And then music. Music is a deep love of mine too. And I always find music to be very healing. So, listening to a lot of music, reading a lot of books, particularly around, I was very drawn after that book to Tibetan Buddhism. So, I read like anything I could get my hands on, and that really
Yeah.
helped me heal some of the spiritual pain that I was going through during that time so that I could make that pivot that you talked about. And realizing that my life was going to be very different. People will still say to me, well, does your leg hurt now? And I've been in pain for so long, I don't think about it consciously. When the storms come in, I'm definitely a person that, when there's a big thunderstorm coming in, I can feel it. Sometimes, it will make me where I'm extremely fatigued. And it's hard to function, at the same level that I do another days. And I think that's one thing that I really want people to understand that are supporting people with chronic pain. Some days we may be doing okay and we might go for a hike with you, and other days it might be to the point where we just can't function. We might not feel hungry and those kind of things. So it's variable. And I think sometimes people will say like, "Oh, but you used to do this or you did this the other day." Well, that's not today.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that, having to navigate that for a long time, decades now, when people say, does your leg hurt? I go, well, now that I stop and think about it, yeah. I mean, it always has a baseline level of pain.
Yeah, we started the episode with saying that many people living with chronic pain, they they what's the word? They feel unseen,
Mhm,
and it's not even a question of feel unseen. It's a question of I'm chatting with you right now, and even how do I even know? I don't even know that you have chronic pain, other than the fact that we're having a discussion. But if we just hopped on the call and I'm like, yeah, hi.
mhm,
How do I even know that, compared to, the other forms of disability that it's quite visible,
mhm.
right? What are some of the misconceptions about living with pain you'd like to challenge because people don't see or even know about it?
Yeah. So I think that's, kind of what I was saying before. Many of the misconception is that it's a static, like you're in the same level of pain every day. Why they might say something like, well, that person says they're in chronic pain, but I saw them out, hiking. I saw
Yeah,
them, they went roller skating. If they were really in pain, why were they out roller skating? Right. Because that day they felt up to it, or maybe that day they took pain management so that they could do that thing and be with their kids or their family. Um, so I think that is one of the key things. And then also one of the things I think that people don't understand about chronic pain is even if the pain isn't brain based, as far as it's not from a brain injury or something like that. Chronic
yeah,
pain can cause the fatigue that then, you may be slower cognitively. You might have those days feel
yeah,
a little foggy because your body is working so hard to manage the pain that other things, um, you know. you just for me, I'm a research scientist, I'm an educator, so there's days where I just feel very like I'm not as on top of it as I have been before because the pain level's higher.
Yeah, well, thanks for clarifying that and
Yeah.
clearing out that misconception, Robin. One of the things I noticed about your profile is that you've dedicated your career to building liberatory and healing centered educational spaces. And I'm curious, how has living with chronic pain shaped the way you approach education and care for your students?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that it's the maybe part of my connection with people who have non-apparent disabilities like autism, ADHD, traumatic brain injury, learning disabilities, and wanting to make sure that they feel safe and they can bring their full self to us. Um, understanding that everybody needs different types of supports. We are not, all exactly the same, and we all need different things to thrive, and we all deserve to have what we need to thrive. Um, so elevating that conversation in the classroom, we talk a lot about that. All our brains work differently. We have students who have chronic health conditions that can't be in a mainstream public school. Maybe they have, some health conditions around, their immune systems are suppressed. They can't be in a building with 4,000 teenagers, right? Um,
Oh,
so thinking about, what everyone needs to live their most authentic, beautiful self and providing that space for teens to have it because I've worked in a lot of settings where they don't. And I finally got to the point where I was like, I know what we need, and so I'm gonna just build it myself.
yeah. Well, well uh, you know, so far while you've been building this, what has been some practices or strategies? I know you've had one of the key things you highlight is physical therapy.
Mhm.
Uh, what are some other practices or strategies that has been most effective for you in managing both your professional responsibilities and the chronic pains?
Yeah. Sleep is really important. I am a person who has a tendency to be an overachiever, and people will say to me, how do you do all of this? You must never sleep. It's actually the opposite. I sleep a lot and still
Yeah,
work multiple jobs. I make sure I sleep well at night. I take naps when I need to take naps. I also continue to, for my level of pain, and it's, the leg injury, so I make sure that maintaining my mobility is something that's really important to me. I just went back to the gym. I've been at the desk for too much, and I was getting a lot of pain. I started getting sciatica, and really was worried that I wasn't taking care of my body. And I think that for those of us that live with chronic pain, we have to find ways that we can take care of our body. We don't have the luxury that some people like that your body doesn't hurt, that it does all the things that you want it to do. Maybe you don't spend as much time like actually taking care of yourself. And so I think that's one of the things that I really like to think about when people talk about self-care. It's a very US thing. People are talking about self-care. The things that they're often talking about self-care isn't really taking care of yourself. It's like, oh, a glass of wine or a bubble bath or buying something. That's not taking care of yourself. And when you live with chronic
yeah,
pain, you need to like truly take care of yourself, which means, good nutrition, exercising even when you don't want to, staying hydrated, all of those kind of things, because my body will scream way faster than somebody who didn't have these kind of injuries or other kinds of disabilities or chronic pain.
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
with me and the listeners. You know, the previous question I asked before this question, I asked you how you combined the chronic pain with your professional experience. One of the things you did mention is you saw something that was not there, and you went ahead and you created it and you made it. And now that you've been doing this for how many years have you been?
We
You
just
know,
started our 5th
been
year.
doing
Mhm.
fifth year.
5
Wow,
years, yeah.
wow! Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
How has the journey been? Has it been smooth?
It's not it's been difficult for sure. You know,
Uh,
it's, doing something that's very outside of what is considered, standard for education, working with a population that, of students who have often not had a seat at the table when, education planning is happening. It has been a journey for us, and we have, very proudly, we have served 43 students. We're a micro school, we're very small, but we've served students in 9 countries. We have a truly multicultural environment. We have multicultural teachers, multicultural students, and we spend a lot of time, being in that space together. And, that perseverance, keep growing, keep recruiting. One of our challenges we're facing right now is that our students keep graduating. Which is a win for us, but that means every time we we get a cohort that graduates, we have to recruit more students. So
uh,
so we're, heavy
uh,
recruiting right now because our students are thriving and doing well and have graduated.
yeah, yeah. Wow. I'm glad that this is really, really doing well. For me, it's your story is really, really inspirational, and this is not just me saying it because I want to. I'm sure you already know this because um, you with the chronic pain and the accident and every other thing, you still found a way to do what you wanted to do, and you didn't allow. Oh, I have chronic pain. Well, I'm just going to relax, even though it's really, really painful in the literal sense of it, right? And but yet you proceeded to to do this amazing thing you're doing, and it's 5 years in, and you've been impacting and touching the lives of the students. And I want to say thank you, Robin.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Like I said, this is something, um, when I have these conversations with, other podcasts and in other settings, I actually don't share about, kind of my personal history with chronic pain, and so it's interesting because you're giving me the opportunity to reflect on it, and, it's been a while since I've done that.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Hmm. Okay. What message would you give to someone uh who is going through pain these pain awareness months, especially the silent uh pain that's unseen and nobody gets to even know about.
Yeah, I think one of the things is, be gentle with yourself and, know that you're doing your best and your personal best may look different from day to day, and that's okay. I would also say, keep going and keep trying different things until you find what's gonna help you manage the pain and, what your body is able to do. And, again, know that that can be different from day to day. I'm personally very happy that I didn't, if I had listened to those doctors and they said, "You will never hike again," and I said, "Well, that's it. I'll never hike again." I would have given up something that I truly loved, and
Yeah.
I'm very rebellious, so when somebody says, "You'll never hike again," my rebellious nature says, "I'll just
Watch me.
yeah, just watch me," right? So that's me, and that's who I am as a person, and I know not everyone, that has chronic pain is that person, and so they have to, you who's listening, you have to be gentle with yourself. I also think it's really important to, have opportunities like this where you can speak about it and it is a part of our identities, even though we might not talk about it often. The other thing I would say is, depending on where your listeners are, there are protections in the workplace, around disability, including non-apparent disabilities, and so, advocate for yourself. And if you do need a more flexible workspace, I've been very lucky. Most of my jobs, I've been in an environment where if I need a break, I can take a break. But if I am in an environment where that's not allowed, I will advocate for myself and say, this is what I need. And I do have, orthopedic injury and I have PTSD from the car crash as well. And the way PTSD works in my brain, um, the pain is a trigger for the PTSD. So on days where I have a lot of pain, the PTSD is more intense because my brain goes, "Oh, I remember what happened," right? And so I think, advocating for yourself when you need the support so that you can get the grace from society that you need.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that advice,
Okay.
Robin. Where can listeners learn more about the project you're working on and also connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find us at thepearlhighschool.org. And then my email is drharwick at thepearlhighschool.org.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I would add the link in the description so listeners can click and go directly to the site. Thank you, Robin, Dr. Robin, for sharing your story and also for that advice you gave to us. Even though it's directed to people going through pain, I know that it's also an advice for life in general because most of the times, other than pain, people have peculiar situations that they're going through, and you have to advocate for yourself and not wait for someone to come advocate for you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life's special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.